The hushed reverence of Hawthorne Elite Range, a sanctuary of steel and glass under the relentless California sun, was shattered by a figure that seemed to have wandered in from another era. Her faded olive jacket and the antique M1 Garand slung over her shoulder screamed, "Wrong address," in this temple of tactical chic, where membership cost more than most mortgages. "VIP lanes don't allow the lost and confused," sneered the receptionist Derek, his eyes flicking over her like she was a stain on the polished black marble. A spoiled kid in a $4,000 tracksuit, Connor Blake, son of a hedge fund titan, chimed in with a cruel laugh. "They letting in mops and maintenance now?" But Harper Lane, all of 23 years, with her raw, unadorned beauty and auburn hair glinting like embers, simply produced a worn VIP pass. It was a relic from her father, Colonel Thomas Lane, a legendary sniper, a ghost who'd ended wars with a single breath on the trigger. This pass, earned through blood and loyalty by his CO, was her silent retort as she walked through the gauntlet of laughter and mockery. 10 perfect shots later, the silence she commanded was absolute. Hawthorne Elite Range, a place where digital scoreboards glowed with the names of Olympians and tech titans, was about to witness a disruption it had never conceived. The live stream feed became an instant digital pillory. Phones flashed, captions forming a virtual firing squad. "Hat welfare shooter," one read, zooming in on her scuffed boots. "She's a joke," another declared, shared by a congressman's son. Vanessa Cole, a blonde sharpshooter with a modeling contract and $6,000 custom optics, amplified the disdain for the live audience. "Look at her thinking she can shoot with us. This is Hawthorne, not a salvage yard." The crowd roared, their laughter. A weapon comments flooding in, "Kick her out, fraud." Harper's hands remained steady, but on the live stream, her mother's face, pale and pained in a hospital bed, betrayed the weight of each cruel word. Professor Laura Vance, a range instructor whose tailored blazer epitomized Hawthorne's polished veneer, stepped forward, her voice dripping with false pity. "This is highly irregular," she announced, loud enough for the lounge to hear. "Hawthorne is for trained professionals, not charity cases with museum pieces." She gestured at Harper's rifle, her diamond earrings flashing. "Perhaps a community range would suit you better." The crowd murmured their agreement, their elitism forming an impenetrable wall, but Harper's hazel eyes, sharp and unflinching, held a depth that belied her thrift store aesthetic. She adjusted her father's worn M1 Garand, its woodstock smooth, from decades of use, and met their scorn with a serene silence that was more powerful than any shouted defense. Then came the challenge, a gauntlet thrown down by the range's golden boy, Ethan Caldwell. At 25, with dark curls, a chiseled jaw, and a $60,000 custom rifle that gleamed like a predator, he was the embodiment of Hawthorne's privilege. After a near-perfect round, his scores flashing 9.9, 9.8, 9.7, he turned to Harper, his grin a weapon. "If you beat me, I'll leave immediately," he declared, his voice smooth and mocking, amplified by the live stream. "But if I win, you're gone, janitor." The crowd erupted, their laughter a tidal wave. Ethan leaned closer, his breath warm with arrogance. "No pressure, sweetheart." Harper didn't flinch. A single nod was her only reply, her silence louder than their jeers. The live stream audience, now a collective heart beating for the underdog, urged her on, desperate for her to shatter their suffocating arrogance. As Harper set up at lane 8, the mockery continued. Connor Blake sauntered over, his designer tracksuit, screaming wealth. "That rifle's a fossil," he sneered, his voice carrying to the live stream. "Bet it falls apart before you fire." He flicked a coffee stirrer at her feet. "Pick it up, maintenance girl." Vanessa adjusted her $6,000 optics, her voice cutting. "You're embarrassing yourself, hun. Go home before you shoot your foot off." Even Coach Pierce, a grizzled ex-Marine, joined the fray, his tone dripping with disdain. Are you sure you even know which end of the rifle you're supposed to hold? Harper's hands moved with quiet precision, loading her rifle, her face a mask of calm. On the live stream, her mother's face, watching from a hospital bed, crumpled with each fresh insult. The ranger's social media feed was a battlefield, a barrage of cruel comments. "Hey, scrapyard shooter," one read. "She's a fake," another declared. Tyler Reed, sprawled in a leather chair, boomed, "Why is she even here? This is our range, not a soup kitchen." A girl in a designer jacket tossed a crumpled score sheet at Harper's feet. "Clean that up, janitor." But Harper didn't pause. Her braids swayed as she checked her rifle, her hazel eyes locked on the target 50 meters away. The audience's rage burned, a collective fury at the mob's cruelty. Even a retired general, now a range consultant, leaned towards Coach Pierce, his voice loud enough for the live stream. "This is what happens when you let scholarships in," he muttered, gesturing at Harper. "No breeding, no skill." Vanessa added her final jab. "You're a walking embarrassment, girl. Leave before you make us all look bad." Connor Blake chimed in, with a sneer. "Bet she's never even fired a gun. Probably stole that pass." Then Ethan took his turn. His movements were fluid, his rifle an extension of his very being. The digital board flashed. 10, 9.9, 10, 10. Near perfect. The crowd roared, their smirks aimed squarely at Harper. "Good luck, thrift store," Ethan called, his grin cocky, daring her to crumble. The live stream comments surged. "She's toast. No way she tops that." Harper stepped to the line, her M1, Garand steady in her hands. The crowd hushed, their phones raised, poised for her humiliation. She exhaled, her body still, her focus a laser beam 50 meters out, a tiny red dot centered among hundreds of rings. The audience held its breath. Shot 1. 10. A soft ping sliced the silence. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "Lucky shot," Tyler scoffed, crossing his arms. Harper didn't blink. Shot 2, 10. The ping came again, sharper now. Vanessa's perfect smirk wavered. Shot 3, 10. The ranger's congratulatory melody played, a rare chime for 3 perfect shots in a row. The crowd froze, their laughter dying in their throats. "Beginner's luck," Connor muttered, his voice cracking. Harper's face remained calm, her hazel eyes locked on the target. Shot 4, 10. The melody played again, louder, insistent. Coach Pierce's clipboard trembled in his hands. Shot 5, 10. A headset clattered to the floor, dropped by a stunned athlete. Shot 6, 10. The range was a graveyard of hushed disbelief, every eye fixed on Harper, her faded jacket a beacon under the harsh lights. Ethan's grin was gone, his jaw tight, his eyes narrowing. The live stream exploded. "Who is this girl? This is insane." Harper's braids swayed as she adjusted her grip, her movements precise, almost sacred. The audience's anger began to morph into awe. Shot 7, 10. The melody was a hymn now, echoing off the steel walls. Tyler's face paled, his bravado crumbling. Shot 8, 10. Vanessa ripped off her $6,000 optics, her hands shaking. Shot 9, 10. The crowd was silent, their phones lowered, their mockery a distant memory. Shot 10, perfect center, overlapping the first bullet, not a millimeter off. The board flashed a new record, 100. The melody played one final time, triumphant, as the system announced, "Facility record broken." Harper lowered her rifle, her breath steady, her hazel eyes sweeping the stunned room. The audience roared, their hearts soaring, her triumph a blaze that burned away their scorn. She turned, calm and utterly steady, and spoke, her voice soft but piercing. "My father taught me to shoot when I was 6, she said, her words cutting through the silence like a blade. He was the #1 sniper in his unit while you were still learning how to double-click a mouse." The crowd parted, their heads bowed, their earlier cruelty hanging in the air. Coach Pierce, the ex-Marine, rose from his chair, his eyes shining with respect, and began to clap, slow and deliberate, the sound echoing in the stillness. One by one, others joined, the applause swelling into a tide of reckoning. Ethan Caldwell stood frozen, his once cocky grin replaced by a flush of shame as Harper's perfect 100 glowed on the board. Her smile, faint but radiant, caught him like a spark. I was an idiot, he stammered, his voice cracking, loud enough for the live stream to catch. You're not just better, you're untouchable. Coach Pierce nodded, his voice booming. Mr. Caldwell, your scores are no longer the standard. Step aside. Ethan's shoulders slumped, but his gaze lingered on Harper, her faded jacket now a badge of honor. I was wrong, he admitted, his eyes searching hers. You're incredible. Harper nodded, her smile faint but warm, a spark that caught him off guard. General Marcus Tate, the Rangers' director, stepped forward, his voice resonant. Harper Lane has redefined excellence, he declared, his words broadcast to the live stream. A record of 100 is now the benchmark for Hawthorne. He turned to the staff, his gaze stern. Those who mocked her, Derek, Professor Vance, face suspension pending review. Standards here are about skill, not status. A digital plaque appeared on the screen. Harper Lane, record holder 100. As the applause faded, Ethan approached Harper, his usual swagger gone. I don't deserve your time, he said, his voice low, but I'd be a fool not to try. You're not just a shooter, you're a force. Harper's hazel eyes met his, her smile deepening. Coffee's a start, she replied, her voice soft but warm. 1 month. Later they were dating. 3 months later, Ethan proposed. They married in a quiet ceremony. The Rangers PL,